What up? Today in the shop, we are working on our PC. More specifically, we are going from a second gen i5-2500K overclocked at 4.7 to a 12600KF. So what that requires is quite a foundational change from DDR3, yes, you heard that right, in 2025, and an old Asus board here, to a newer chipset, DDR5. We're going to go for an M.2, and we're just going to stick with a basic cooler here. This is actually one of the OG Hyper 212 Evos. Here's a newer style, single fan. And you might be asking yourself, Alex, why not just do like a liquid AIO solution instead of a standalone simple cooler? Aren't you worried about overclocking that CPU and hitting, temperature limits? Great question. The reason I'm not doing an AIO right now is I got burned recently by this Corsair unit. Check out the boogers on that thing. So this thing started to develop a leak. Coolant seepage turned into a situation that actually took out the board, this older board here. Normally not a big deal, they're not too expensive, but they are hard to find used. So that was not great. So now I'm just playing it safe, and we're just going to go with this for now. Tell me also, when have you seen a PC video in an automotive shop setting? This is a first for me, so let me know down below if it's first for you too. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to prep the board by placing our CPU, thermal compound, getting our memory set, our M.2. Let's get this thing open and get these things basically put in before we even start tearing into this guy here. Let's check here. This should just be some accessories, Wi-Fi antennas, just the Wi-Fi antenna itself. Okay, perfect. So let's carefully pull this out, and then we're going to use the box as actually a platform to work on to avoid any kind of static discharge. Get our static bag off of here. Okay, let's put this to the side for now. We're going to make sure to pull out our I/O shield. Pull our board back over here. Okay. So this is going to be a Z790 chipset. We are going to start with our CPU. Open our socket. So the first thing we're going to look for is our indicator arrow here. This is going to be the motherboard flipped 180 degrees. So top right-hand corner from this view. If you're looking at it traditionally, bottom left-hand corner. However, because of the way that the socket cover opens, I'm going to have it in the inverse for when we seat our CPU here. So now, we'll go ahead and get this guy opened up. So that arrow I was referring to might be kind of hard to see on camera here, but it is right here. So we want our CPU to sit in this orientation. So we're going to open our cover. Gently remove it without touching the pins on the bottom. So we're kind of just grabbing it from the side. We're going to go ahead and try to drop it directly down and in. Do a little side to side, up and down wiggle here. We want to make sure that these alignment, basically tabs or alignment dowels in the plastic casing are holding the CPU properly. Again, we have an arrow here, here, and then on this side right here. So we know we are good there. We're going to go ahead and close our shield. This will pop, just like that. Make sure to keep this. I will talk about this here in a second. And then we're going to apply pressure with our lever here. And that's going to lock our CPU down. Perfect. So again, arrow to arrow, that's all you have to remember. This, make sure to keep this in case you ever have to send the board out for repair or replacement, RMA. They'll usually want this cover on. So we're going to go ahead and put everything back in the box. Okay. So we have that. And we're going to go ahead and apply some thermal compound here in a moment. We have a couple choices. We can move on to memory, M.2, or the cooler. Most of them are pretty low-hanging fruit. Let's do the memory after the cooler. Let's do the M.2 first. So go ahead and grab a screwdriver, remove this cover, and we'll get that installed. Okay, so now we're moving on to installing our M.2. Okay, let's get this guy open here. Okay, so we have a couple choices for M.2 slot here. We're going to go up here to our SATA X. So we are M.2 slot here. We're going to put our heatsink back on down here. Okay. Just go hand tight on those. Now we need a standoff. So let's check. Very similar to inserting a ribbon cable if you're familiar. So we're going to go for our third slot there. Let's grab our box or bag of standoffs here. Just going to lightly thread this in, this standoff. So this is a Phillips. Let's go ahead and insert our drive at an angle until we basically see the pins disappear, and then there's a small alignment tab. So we're right there. So we know that's good. Get our small standoff screw here. Now we're just going to bring the drive down very gently. And thread this into the standoff, basically torquing the drive down so it lays nice and flat. Perfect. Less is more on the tightness there. We just need to make good contact. Rarely do you have to really apply any kind of muscle. If you are finding that you have to, you might want to just double check and make sure that things are in alignment. Usually you don't have to be too forceful. So now we're going to install the cooler support bracket. And then we'll get some thermal compound applied. Seat the cooler. Install our RAM in dual channel. 2 and 4, slots 2 and 4 there. Let's break this guy out now. Our actual cooler. Exposed copper, perfect. You always want to double check. Less of an issue or less of a concern when you're installing these style of coolers, they don't have thermal compound pre-applied. AIOs typically do, so you don't want to double up unintentionally here. Okay. Oh, and we got a nice fresh tube thermal compound. That's kind of nice from Cooler Master there. We're probably going to stick with this Arctic Silver, but that'll be nice to have an unopened one for future use. And typically you'll have different bracket configurations considering this is universal fit. Something like AM4 for AMD, or in our case just an Intel set. Okay. Yep, this is going to be for LGA, so we can see we have some adjustments. It's kind of nice. A little bit more refined than this guy up here. So I'll take it. So we just care about our LGA instructions here. Looks like you're going to do a torque sequence, which is quite common. That's very similar to automotive there. Okay, we don't care about any of the AMD. Yep, that is a crazy amount of thermal compound. We do not need that much. A couple screws for the brackets. Okay, that makes sense. So, what we're going to do, I hope you guys can see that on camera. It is not a pea-sized, so we will not be doing that. So right now we're just going to gently turn our board over and insert our bracket from behind. Looks like we're going to use the outer holes here. Okay. We're just going to rest this in place. Perfect. Okay. So we just want to make sure that we can see the threads kind of poking out here, which we can. So we are good there. Fan will do last. This should just clip onto our heatsink. So pull this out for a moment. Kind of mock this up. All right, so a little bit of a different view here. So we're going to take our two basically brackets. We're going on the innermost mounting holes here. And then we're just going to push them in, just like that. Same thing on the other side. Just bringing these clips through this hole up top and this hole down below. And now if we take our cooler in its proper orientation, should now be able to clip our fan on, and there you go. So they basically get locked into our heatsink pins up here. Make sure it's nice and level, make sure our orientation is correct. So that's going to be for the prep step here in a moment. So we can go ahead and remove this for now. All right, so now that we have these brackets on here, it's kind of interesting. You might notice in this instruction manual, it looks like the ears of the bracket go on the outermost holes, come in. But I don't think that that is correct because there's no way for it to hook on. So I think they have to go on the inside, these holes here, and we'll soon find out. So we're going to put this aside for now. We are now going to go ahead and prep the brackets against the base here. So for Intel, we are going to use D. You can see here, E is going to be for the AM4, AM5. So we don't need those. So we need these two. So like this, like that. A couple screws. Pull those out. Okay. And it looks like there's only really one way to do this, but we'll just double check the instructions here. So we can see we're upside down. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to keep the lettering uniform, so let's go ahead. We're just going to do this. You can see here, there's a little bit of an indication. These appear that they're just going to fit into these channels. And it looks like because of the concave nature here, they are actually just going to screw in from this side. So let's go ahead and get a screw on here. Well, so much for magnetic tips. That is fine. Go ahead and get one set in. Get a bracket up underneath. Go ahead and screw this one down first. Okay. And you'll see that there's kind of a channel that they'll sit in. So I do like this better than the scissor spring balance thing that you kind of had to do with the old X. Do the same on this side. Okay, let's do a little logical mock-up. So we're like this. We're directly on our standoffs or our threads. We'll apply some even torque there. Okay, so we are now ready to peel this. We could wipe that down with some isopropyl, but I think we are okay, being that it's brand new. Okay, so the most controversial thing you've ever seen on the internet, aside from how to change your oil and what oil to use, is going to be the thermal compound application. So we are looking for a pea size. So I'm going to waste a little bit here. Grain of rice, pea size, you name it. Okay, so we're going for something similar to that there, just directly in the middle. That might even be too much. So it tells you that less is more. We are simply trying to get a good spread when we torque this down. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and get a screwdriver ready. Something that's long enough to reach down. And then we'll go ahead and apply even torque in kind of a star pattern. Make sure everything else is secured underneath that we don't have access to. Let's make sure that our fan will clear. Looks like it should. We'll double check that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a balance here. We're just going to set this down. Spread our thermal paste. Just kind of have to commit to it. Okay. Get a couple threads started here. Trying to do some microscopic movements here. Okay, and again, we are just getting our threads started. We are not trying to run things down quite yet. We just want to apply even pressure. So all four are now down. You got to kind of resist the urge a little bit not to put the cooler down, take it off, inspect, reapply. Again, you just have to kind of commit there and then try to make minimal movements after. So anybody who's familiar with mechanic work, cylinder head, valve covers, wheels, This is a very common muscle memory method to evenly torque something down. Star pattern. So I'm just watching the threads here as I tighten down. So now we are good to finish. So we'll do that. Opposing side. Opposing side. And opposing side. Okay. So now we have essentially even pressure. Let's go ahead and just make sure everything feels good. Okay. So now we are seated onto the CPU. We can now go ahead and take our fan. We're going to go ahead and clip this guy on. Okay, on and on. Lock into the second fin. Second fin, just making sure our fan is somewhat level. This is an RGB connector. We're going to go for CPU fan 1. We're going to go ahead and just route this as nicely as we can without disturbing anything. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go up this way, up underneath this heat spreader, next to this 8-pin header. See if we can fit it right there. Perfect. And then this will go behind the board, essentially, and then pop out on top. So a little bit better piece-by-piece wire management there, so it'll sit kind of like that. We want to be sure not to stress the wires too much if we can in the pins. So we'll try to do a direct shot if we can, but we'll have to see. We got a little bit of strength in this heat sink here, a little bit of tension relief, but we'll finalize that stuff when the time comes. And then, interesting enough, this board looks to have an RGB1 4-pin header and then a non-pinned header. But we only have provisions for 3 female, 3 male. So for right now, we're actually just going to put this RGB header aside because we're not sure if we're going to use it natively off the board. So I'm going to go ahead and feed this sleeve up the same kind of channel without forcing it. There. So we know we're not forcing against this header or anything on the heat spreader. Perfect. Okay. CPU is now installed. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and put our DIMM into our DIMM slots. So again, DDR5, we are going for channel 2 and 4. We want to make sure that we have this notch line with this. You can see it's a little offset. So we're actually going to flip. Open up both sides here. Sometimes it's just one. We're going to go for an audible click, so I like to usually do one side first, and then the other. So you can see if you have it rotated, it simply will not depress in. And because I'm on a cardboard box, it's a little bit wary, but I want to clip in, all the way, and then these should come up on their own. So now this is locked in. And then we are going to do the same over here. Same orientation. You can kind of cheat a little bit because you'll notice that they're the same on the labels there. So we're going to go ahead and click and click. Okay. So the board is now prepped. We have, as a recap, we have an M.2 installed. This is going to be our boot drive, a 1 terabyte 990 Evo Plus. We have a 12600KF, replacing our very dated, overclocked 2500K. We have our cooler, kind of our static cooler, non-liquid AIO here up top. And now we are ready to pull this board out and insert this board in, get our SATA drives connected here, pull over our Founders Edition 1080, so that's also kind of old, but that'll do just fine. The CPU is the obvious bottleneck in this config right now, so we're going to now bottleneck with the GPU, but that's okay. That'll give some room for growth. Okay. Let's go ahead and spin this around. See if we have any dust we need to get out of the backside here. No, not too bad. Okay. Put that down for a minute. Cable management's a little nuts down here. This is all still reminiscent of when that AIO took out the board. Threw a new power supply in here along with it just to not run any risks. So we have a loose 2.5-inch SSD. We'll double stick tape for our Steam library. I think we have another 1 terabyte for expansion. These are also a couple small capacity drives for expansion. So let's go ahead and kind of undo some of this wire management. Really, we don't need to undo a lot of this too much, but let's go ahead and just start pulling some components out here. Let's go ahead and pull our 1080 out just so we don't deal with any kind of weird angles. A couple thumb screws. Okay. Okay, so we want to make sure that we hit this release while we take our card out. Okay. I'm going to lift it backwards, basically. You want to make sure, because it's hard to see that sometimes, that you're not yanking this out. A little bit of dust in our fan. No big deal. We're going to put this to the side on this anti-static bag for now. Let's start pulling some power. Start with our front panel. Various connectors. Just taking an inventory of everything we need to pull out. It's nothing too crazy, but okay. Audio header, audio connector. Move that to the side. USB 3. So, you heard me in the beginning, DDR3. That's what all this is. These are just some crucial sticks. 32 gigs total. Nothing fast. So we're going to see some, I'm expecting to see some pretty significant changes to general performance, not only in-game, but video editing, multitasking, stuff like that. So it's a couple fans. Okay, let's put all this behind this shielding. All we're doing is really trying to make sure we have a straight shot out with the board. Why do you need 6 drives? Good question. You don't. But when you're messing with stuff. Not that we need to hot plug anything, but, you know, we got quite a few connectors there. Okay, so now, CPU, fan header, we can leave that. Looks like we have an 8-pin. So this one's a little bit tighter, but what we can do is actually give ourselves a little bit of space here. By pulling this fan off the cooler. Dusty. Need to run the air purifier in the room a little bit more. So, just trying to get a good angle so we don't put too much tension on anything. Looks good. All right, a couple Phillips, 3 here. We have a center alignment dowel, 3 there, and this board should come right out. Hope to sneak it past this way, past this fan. No big deal. Let's get to it here. Something that we're going to do with this is we're also just going to boot off of our existing 2.5-inch drive that's running our OS image right now. And then we're going to go ahead and we'll do probably just a clean install. I think we're running an older build of 10, so we'll probably just use this as a chance to go to 11 with the M.2. So, okay. This should be everything. I think we're just sitting on that dowel, so let's grab a cardboard box to set this board on. Alright, surprise, surprise, automotive parts. Let's go ahead and pull this out gently, make sure we don't have any connectors in the way. Okay, just like this. Got a couple connectors holding up there. So we're going out and to the side. Pull it out as one unit. Okay. Let's get this I/O shield out of here. Perfect. Want to make sure we keep that together as well. Now for our new guy. So it's got a little bit of a gasket to it that's kind of nice. Okay, so we're just pushing that in, making sure we have nice audible clicks as she gets seated. Okay, now we're just curious about our standoff positions here. So, I'm going to go ahead and just take a quick look. See if things are lining up. Pretty standard, but just be sure here. Okay, looks good. Move a couple things around. Make sure we don't pinch anything as we're going in. Okay, a couple connectors. Just make sure we're good there. Just about. I'm just looking at the standoffs. We're looking pretty good. I'm looking up at the top here. Looks like we just had something kind of hanging up, but we're past that. Make sure we're pushed up against our I/O shield. We look good there. Okay, now it's time to start mounting it. Go ahead and get a better light in here. CPU power 1, so we'll do our 8-pin there. Got our 24-pin here. USB 3. Looks like we only have 4 SATA connections and 6, so we'll have to make sure we get the right drives, or at least connected. It's RGB header. Again, we're not going to use this for right now, so move that. Audio right there. front panel. Just looking at the USB here, so USB 4, USB 3. Yeah, the 1 and 2s are down here for USB headers, so looks like we can go directly into this guy. It might be a little OCD for anybody here. We have 2 silver screws. Make sure these thread in without much resistance. This one doesn't feel super great, so let's actually see if we got some others that came with the board. I don't know if we did, but we'll find out. I think these usually come with the case, so might have to source a couple. Not a big deal. Again, just hand tight, nothing crazy. Okay, so let's see what's going on with these. Should be the same thread, but make sure we're not going at it at a weird angle. Nope, that one feels good. So there might be some boogered threads, perhaps? No? Might be something weird with that standoff, so... Yeah, it doesn't feel great, so let's not on that guy. We have an alternative standoff. We do up here. We might have to look at... Yeah, okay. So it's a standoff issue. So we might have to clean up that thread. We could force it, but we are not going to. It's always a good policy not to do that. So let's go ahead and get some of the low-hanging fruit here. 24 pin. Okay, nice click. Kind of put ourselves into a little bit of a corner with this top one. But let's see. I can get it with my fingers, but I'm not sure the camera's going to show it, so. It's 2 4-pins together, so it makes it a little bit more. Oh, and it's got a top locking tab, so we got to kind of maneuver this a little bit. Let's think about this a little bit. So, not the best for wire management, but we will figure it out. Don't want to disturb the cooler too much. This is also like automotive, where you're kind of getting a feel for it with your fingers, looking with your fingers, not so much your eyes. There we go. Okay, so we'll be able to pull that through a little bit. It's not interfering with anything, so I'm not too worried. Close to the fan, but not close enough to cause any kind of concern. Here's something. Looks like one side of the 4-pin is seated, but maybe not the right, so there you go. Pay special attention to that. Let's see what's going to be happiest for the 3.0. So we can go this way or direct. I think we're going to go direct. We're going to need to figure out these SATA cables here. I'm just going to move these for a moment. Okay, so let's get a straight shot of this USB 3. It's kind of conflicting a little bit with our 24 pin, so we're just going to try to pull this through. That way we get a straight shot and we don't force anything at a weird angle. Let's go ahead and give this header a little bit of reinforcement. I gotta say, I don't like that very much. Well, maybe it's better now. Let's see. Just trying to make sure it doesn't put too much tension on the header there. Working a little blind back here. Okay. So we know what that looks like. Let's see if this is any more comfortable. Sure. Personally, I don't mind that. Feel a lot more comfortable with the tension. Yeah, that's fine. Not going to be too OCD about it. So, we're going to take a gamble here with our SATA connectors. We're going to see if we get the drives that we need. We'll probably pop open the back, but we'll boot it, check the BIOS, see what drives are showing. We need to switch things around. Not too worried. There we go. All right, so we're just going to move these to the side for now. We're missing drives. We know we have another 2 that we can look at there. This is going to be for the graphics card. Let's get audio plugged in. Looks good. Let's go ahead and get our headers here. Speaker up on JFP2. We have power LEDs, we have hard drive activity, and power switch. Okay. So power switch. Right there. Power LED, hard drive LED reset. Power LED is going to be left side. Power LED negative. Right side. Okay. Hard drive activity right below. Not super necessary, but we'll still plug it in. Okay. A little bit of a cluster there. Okay. SATA drives, RGB header, not going to use. You are going to go behind. We'll tuck you here. Kind of behind our fan. Not too worried about that. She's not going to go anywhere or interfere with anything. Got our braided cables here for our cooler. Okay, now we're going to take this guy off. Okay. We have a couple fans we should put back in here quick. Let's do that. All right, change of scenery here. It's getting a little bit too hot outside in the shop, so we are picking up where we left off. We're going to take our fans off of our AIO. replace them here. So we have our exhausts. We're going to do intakes. Okay, let's do that first. So all we're going to do here is basically remove our fans. And then we have this bracket that goes in the case. Again, this unit developed a seep edge, a leak. Okay. And all we're interested in is, again, this bracket here. A couple thumb screws. Should go in just like this. She's a little dusty, so we'll make sure to blow things out here. Just temporarily thread this in. You can already see that this is the wrong mounting spot. You want to be right there. Okay. Again, we're just going to temporarily do this in case we need to pull this out to better mount the fans. So we want to make sure we get the blade orientation correct. So this would be exhaust. So we want to push-pull. So we want to push or pull air in and push it out. So we don't want to be like this, because this would be matching the exhaust. We want to basically flip these. Looks like we're just going to go right here. Okay, so no big deal. We're going to need to find our fatter coarse thread Phillips for these fans to be mounted back. So we're going to leave that for now. Not a big deal. We just need to focus on the first boot. Let's go ahead and focus on our graphics card now. Get our 1080 in, get our GPU in, and let's finish this up. So let's go ahead and open our tab here. Just give it a straight shot. Nice audible click. This case isn't super great. You can see how much we're going to have to kind of coax this a little bit, so not a big deal. Just going to start these threads and kind of force this bracket in a little bit. Okay. Same thing for this other one. Kind of fighting a weird angle and some alignment issues, but we're just trying to secure the card so it doesn't wiggle or do anything silly. Just like that. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put our bracket back on. Right about there. A couple thumb screws. Okay. Now we just have power. Brace the back of the card, get that to click in nice and solid. Okay. Stand her up. Now she's ready for first boot. We have GPU powered, CPU mounted, cooler, our power supply plugged in, dual channel memory there. This, we need to still get our two intake fans in, but she's all ready for first boot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to boot off the current Windows image on a 2.5-inch SSD. And then we're going to go ahead and build a fresh Windows image on the M.2. So go ahead and do some migration work there, but we'll start it up, see how she does out of the box, and go from there. Okay, and here we go. First boot with the fresh rebuild. Hoping for no drama here. Okay, and after a little bit of trial and error getting the right drive configuration with those 6 SATA cables, we are now booted into Windows and taking a look at our new config with the new CPU, board, cooler, RAM, all that good stuff. Things are looking nice and stable. And now I'm going to show you guys a little before and after, just some realistic, real-world comparisons between a few AAA titles, keeping the settings pretty much the same, so it's more apples to apples between the 2nd gen and the 12th gen Intel. Okay, so as you can see, quite the difference to be expected here. Again, apples to apples as much as possible. Similar environments, you know, same game, same settings, going through some of the same motions just to get an idea of how responsive. And yeah, it's day and night. I'll tell you that just from what I can feel so far. So that'll about do it for this video. Thanks for watching this PC upgrade, kind of a little bit of a different video for this channel, but if you enjoyed this content, make sure to drop a like, hit subscribe so you don't miss more videos just like this, automotive and, you know, other miscellaneous things. And let me know down in the comments what you're working on, and I will see you in the next one.